Filmmaker Mike Bennett and Brayden Olson openly discuss their journey together, forming a deeply moving portrait of Brayden's path to finding his father. The following conversation is an audio journal of their experiences. We hope you enjoy.
So, part two, that's where we're at.
Part two to Florida from Seattle. So just to recap real quick, we decided that we were going to try and find my dad, did some online research, did a lot of online research, did a lot of just phone calls, went to Seattle, talked to my mom, had the first ever conversation with my mom about my dad, and decided we should go to Florida to see if this is the right Carlos.
So, after the last crazy conversation you have with your mom, after 35 years of not having that conversation, we go to the airport and we hop on a plane and we go to Florida and we try to find your dad, who owns a crystal healing store. Let's get into it. I think we take a red eye or something from Seattle, and we just like get in those Delta beds, and when they just record,
we got upgraded.
Yeah, we were in first class.
Delta.
Thank you.
We paid for a regular ticket and got upgraded.
Yeah, because we were on like the 5 a.m. flight. There's literally no one dumb enough to be on that flight.
So we slept on those are all only sleep we had in a week.
Yeah, probably. So we're running around like crazy in Seattle. We hop in this plane. We fly to Florida, and we get off the plane, and I'm like, dude, we are in Miami. Let's do this.
It's hot. We get into the first thing we do. I had the foresight to rent us a car and try and save some money because we're not funded or whatever, and so I rent a fucking cargo van because it's cheap as fuck.
Well, hang on. Well, the reason you chose a cargo van because
it's cheap.
No, but you also were like, it's kind of like a cool PI van.
No, it's because it was like $80 compared to like $500.
Just for insert, it was spring break when we landed in Florida.
And no one wanted a cargo.
So every car, every hotel was booked out.
So we have to drive like literally an hour to this car rental place, and we get basically hosed on. The taxi driver completely rips us off. I think our cab bill was like $150, something out of control, insane. And he's telling us stories about the mafia the entire time we're in the car. We get to the car rental place, they're closed.
Oh yeah,
they're fucking closed. They're
closed,
not even open. So now we have to get the cab back the other direction for 45 minutes. So we get to Miami and we've already spent more money than.
It was not a good start.
It was not a good start. And then we get to the hotel, and it's probably the sketchiest hotel I've ever stayed at. Well, it is. There's no question about it. It's terrifying.
So it's the sketchiest hotel
also
in Miami. But it's in a beautiful spot.
I let Mike book the hotel. Big mistake.
And let me tell you, it looks good. I mean, from a cinematography point of view, it's hitting every angle. It just looks incredible. I'm working with talent that's on a bad day not that good. So I gotta elevate the talent. So I pick a hotel that has charm and mystique.
Drug dealers.
And prostitutes and drug dealers.
But I don't mind. That's fucking awesome. But when you have like camera gear it's like,
when you have $100,000 with the camera gear
that you're borrowing, borrowing most of it, and it's sort of a handshake deal that you can borrow it this one time, and we had to fucking beg, borrow, and steal to get it, and then we're like, oh, this is gonna get stolen. So when we left the room, we would record and have like a live feed and like a Google chat so that at least we could see who stole it for like some sort of insurance purposes.
Yeah.
It was fucking scary. The rooms were like, there's like literally blood in the bathroom. There's like the sheets have never been changed. It is fucked up.
But I mean, it was on the water.
But
it had the best sunset.
It was in the bay. It was gorgeous.
It was cool.
Anyway, so that's like our introduction is getting ripped off, going to a crazy hotel. And then when we checked in, they were like, oh, we don't have any rooms. Remember? Like, your room's not ready. Like, it's 5 p.m. Like, you're talking to her through a bulletproof glass. So you can barely hear her. It was crazy.
Anyway, so that's our introduction to Florida. So we're on the ground, and our goal is to find Brady's father. And so we have an address, and we found a website linked to this business address that he's found. And there's a phone number at the bottom of this website, and we decide, okay, we need to call this number, and hopefully Brady's, who we think's father, is going to answer, and then let's try arrange to meet up with him. And we kind of come up with this plan while we're there to a friend, by coincidence, is in Miami at the same time, and she works in the beauty industry, and we decide, okay, let's get her to kind of introduce herself as a natural health, curious person about crystals. Yeah. And she's going to review this crystal shop for, personal interest, future business, whatever, her blog. So we get her to call Carlos.
Well, it's not just like his number. It's just a number to a business, and we're hoping that we can try and get him on the phone somehow.
Yeah.
And so I left the room because it was just like kind of
way too much,
too heavy.
Yeah. So you haven't ever heard your father's voice before. We assume we are assuming this is his business, and that this number that
someone will pick up.
Someone will pick up that might work with him, or he might even answer himself. So we have our friend call this number, poses this journalist, interested in crystals, curious, and it doesn't even ring. He just picks up. He's like,
Are you Carlos?
Yes, I am. And you? Well, the problem is I work by myself on the weekends and I'm extremely busy.
Oh yeah?
So I can't be available on the weekend days. I'm not available.
It would really only take like 5 to 10 minutes.
You know what? If you have the time, I have the time.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll stop by tomorrow.
And he says, yeah, this is Carlos. Who's this? And he kind of put us on the back foot. And then we have a conversation for, 5-10 minutes. And we agree to meet up with him at one of his crystal stores on the weekend. And he says, hey, I'm really busy on the weekends, but maybe I could fit you in. Come early on a Saturday and we can talk and film.
And I didn't go on this either. I just let you guys go do it.
Yeah.
I just fucked around.
Yeah. You weren't even in a room, but I just remember my heart dropped when he picked up the phone. And I was like, that's him. That's your Brayden's father.
We think.
Yeah, we think. Well, from, all the digging. And we were just in shock. I remember we were so freaked out after it.
Why don't you just insert a clip where it makes sense?
Okay, yes.
I can't believe he answered.
I know. Halfway through, I was like, are you Carlos?
I'm shaking. I'm gonna cry. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
I just heard my dad's voice and I'm fucking shaking. He answered the phone and Madeline said that they're gonna do an interview tomorrow for a story about natural healing. It's so fucking crazy. I'm freaking out.
I don't want to go though. I don't want to be near. I might not even go in the van.
Okay.
It's too much for me. I don't even want to go.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine.
So I don't even want to see it until this comes out, really, honestly. I'm not emotionally ready to be near that.
So the weekend comes, you disappear, and which I understand, it's intense for you. And I go out to this business address, it's about an hour north of where we were staying in Florida, and it's on the side of a highway in a strip mall, and there's probably 1,000 stalls inside this strip mall. It's enormous. And I sit in this cargo van that Brady's hired for the week, and I feel like a proper PI. I've got the camera gear on legs in the back of the van. I'm aiming the camera to every car that pulls up, hoping that it might be him and that I might capture this shot of him getting out of his car and going into work. So yeah, I'm on the hunt. I'm literally got binoculars and I'm staring at every car that pulls up into the car park. Is that him? Is that him? And we get there a little early and I can't go into the strip mall. So I'm kind of waiting around, and eventually it opens up and my friend and I go in there.
Were you nervous to go in? Was it, I guess?
Yeah, I was. I'd gone into these.
And you were this camera, the security's probably not going to let you in with
No,
this
the
camera.
security initially said you can't come in. I wanted to go to the bathroom or something before, and they wouldn't let me in. Also, when I went to the security at the door, they were fully armed, Florida style. And I was I'm not sure they're going to let me in with a huge camera, but we'll see what happens. This strip mall is enormous, so it has 20 different entrances. So we pick the least quiet entrance and we go through that one, and we're walking through, and the strip mall's so big that it has street signs within it inside. So you're basically looking. On his website there was a street sign that said he was next to the food court. So I'm looking at these street signs within the strip mall, going past all these different vendors. A little lost, and our friend asked two vendors, two old women, if she knew of this business address or knew of this vendor, and they said they didn't, but they knew the street that it was on. So they say the street, and as they're saying this, I look over our friend's shoulder and I see the sign for his crystal store. And I'm like, shit, like there it is.
So, I was sort of like texting you during all this, and I was like, what's going on? I didn't hear back all day because you guys were.
But also, we went there just hoping to get like an establishing shot of your father, to prove that this guy existed. I wasn't trying to even get much more than that. Anything more was a bonus at that point. So, you know, I whistled to her over her shoulder. She turns around, she goes to the store, and we approach it, and he's there. He answers. He's like the only guy there. It's just opened, and he seems like flustered. And she introduces herself and says, hey, I spoke to you on the phone yesterday, and I'm here to interview you for my blog, my beauty blog, about your crystal store. And he is just not having it, like in the worst mood. And he basically tells us to fuck off.
So it is my dad.
And at that point, I was like, oh my God, this guy has to be related to Brayden one way or the other. Because you do that shit to me all the time. But he's basically lost the bridge to his mouth from his dentist. And
did you get any, like, do you think that, because I haven't been to a dentist in a while, do you think that, like, maybe we should find out about his health and his dental records?
I mean,
that'd be valuable to me.
Yeah. When was the last time you went?
You could do a whole podcast series about the U.S. health insurance, but
So anyway, I'm kind of in shock. We think we found our guy. He has a mask just below his face because it's COVID, and I'm like, that's him. That's the guy from the photos that Brady had showed me. So I'm like, good, hook, line, and sinker. We've at least got an establishing shot of him, and we found his crystal store. But he doesn't want to talk to us. So I'm like, we and ah for a while, and he's kind of just in the worst mood, and he's just not coming around. He's like, the energy's all wrong. I can't do it today. Blah, 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 blah.
Because he's just fucking into crystals, right?
Yeah.
Was we've talked about it and I've watched the footage, but the dude is like, I think from what I'm like, is this guy suffering like trauma from what he's done? And like, can't light enough sage for you know what I mean? Like,
right.
He seems like a troubled person who has a lot of baggage, and he like is like healing crystals, sage, like saging everything. Like, I wonder if that's related to,
I don't know,
what's happened, or is that just how he is, right? Like,
he's got like this shaman spirit for sure. Like, he sticks with you for a long time after. His personality is super strong. You kind of believe anything he says. He's nearly like a con artist. I don't know. I that sounds bad, but it's not. I'm not saying in a bad way, but he's very charismatic. Eventually, after 15, 20 minutes of like him telling us to fuck off, I see his demeanor start to change, and he starts to come around. And our friend that's talking to him, trying to interview him.
And she just didn't quit.
No, she kept...
I would have been out of there.
Yeah, so would I. But she just kept saying, oh, wow, you have a great store, whatever. And the more that she was interested in him, the more intrigued he became. And then eventually he kind of dropped his guard and was like, okay, let's do this interview. I feel good again.
Are we going to interview now, or I should, huh?
You feel ready?
Yeah, I think I'm getting better.
Okay.
Let's get this shit done.
Okay.
I won't say too much.
Did you see him do any cocaine?
I mean, I listened to music with him. We burnt enough sage to put a hole in the ozone layer. I ended up walking out of there 3 hours later. All my batteries were dead on the camera. All the memory cards were used up.
You got a necklace.
And I had a crystal necklace on. So that basically sums up the experience for me. And I felt like I got brainwashed nearly. Like, I walked out there going, I thought I was meant to like film this guy and expose him, and he exposed me. So I left there like a shell-shocked human, like I'd just been, you know.
When I met up with you guys after, you were both like quite rattled.
Oh man, I was so drained, and I've done this for a while now, and I've never had that experience. I was in shock for sure. And also, like, you're texting me in this experience with your supposedly father.
And then I got a photo of you and Carlos together.
And I'm not responding to your text, so it's making you more anxious, and you're like texting me more nearly. Like, what is going on? What's going on? I remember like pulling a phone out of my back pocket and then just seeing all your texts and just taking like a quick photo and then putting it back in my pocket. And I think it was the period where he's like putting a crystal necklace on me or something. And you were just like, holy shit, like you've hit the mother load. So yeah.
And let's, make it clear that we didn't tell him.
He has no idea I'm best friends with you.
And
he has no idea.
But we did, we don't get into it too much, but we did poke around and ask him, do you have a son?
I'm not even going to go into it because there's so many crazy details. But when you speak for someone for 3 hours, you can't just talk about crystals. We spoke about everything. And I didn't ask him, or our friend didn't ask him, who was posing as a journalist.
I think we should share that
everything.
I think we should share with the listener, because this journey is going to get, as we continue on to keep filming, I think it's important.
Right.
So I think we should say that he says he doesn't have kids.
Yeah. So we can play that right now.
That's what life is about. It's not about marriage. I never got married, never had kids. We travel all over the world. We're the true backpackers.
You've never had kids?
No kids. I don't have time. Life is too short. 100 years is not enough for me to have kids. I need time for myself.
Because he's too selfish.
Yeah.
But we don't. So that makes me think, when we go back and we find other information I found out about through, my mom says that he does know I'm alive, but I think that maybe he thinks my mom got an abortion, which is super heavy and crazy, and I don't know who to believe. And that's something we'll get to the bottom of in this story. There's
a lot of other details from the phone calls we had.
To get the listener to know that, we don't really know. We don't know who to believe. We don't know who's telling the truth. We don't know anything other than just like, I think this is my dad, and I don't know if he knows I'm alive. And how do I approach that? At what point do I want to meet him? Does it matter to me?
Right.
Do I just, cool, I know who my dad is, but I don't want to meet him. I don't know. Would he be excited to know he has a son? There's all these questions.
Yeah. Obviously, it feels so strange me saying this to you as I'm the only person that's met your father, but I don't know. It is weird. I think you two would get along very well. That's what I think. But it's going to be
I don't know, Mike. So
years.
if, let's say I went in and he said tonight, no, I can't talk to you. I don't think I would stick around until he felt like talking. That's kind of like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get it. He's got a very young spirit, and he loves kind of the younger crowd. He loved us being around him. It gives him like a certain type of energy. He's young at heart for sure. And I think with your energy as well, it would, I don't know, it'd also be a recipe for disaster. You guys would probably get arrested and end up in some jail in Florida.
Well, I'm not sure, when we'll talk more too, but his lifestyle doesn't seem to fit the job description.
Right. So I guess, God, there's a lot, we shouldn't say, basically in the film, this will all come out, but there's a lot of details of like his business activities. I don't know if the crystal store is a cover up for something.
And we'll try and get
deeper and darker.
But
yeah.
I think we should share the detail of that, he used to sell cocaine.
Yeah. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. Nothing more needs to be said.
And I have done cocaine in the past. So there is a direct link there. I'm just kidding. I don't condone, do, or abuse drugs.
Let's just say you've gone straight and narrow now.
Had a bit of a night last night.
That was a concert. I haven't been to one in a while. Lots of rock and roll. Grew up in Woodstock, where Woodstock didn't happen. Let's make that straight. It happened in Bethel Woods, which is just down the street from where we're at right now.
Yeah. Hang on, let's get back to Florida.
Did the fucking interview with them.
We do the
hotel.
Come back to the hotel, and you're there, and we sit down.
I've been robbed. I'm hogtied.
Yeah.
And there's a prostitute demanding money.
She's pointing a gun at me, saying, "Give me the camera." And that's how we lost the first camera. After the prostitute leaves with the camera, I have another handy cam, and I pull that out, and we speak. And I basically tell you, like, what was he like? And I say, pretty incredible. Like, it was a crazy experience. I'm pretty drained. I just spent 3 hours with your father, or supposedly who we think your father is. And I have a lot of information here that I kind of need to, like, decipher.
And I don't think I didn't want to watch it.
You didn't want to talk about it. You're like, let's get back.
It's like, I'm really mentally healthy, where I like to just sort of stow things and not talk about it, until they blow up.
Yeah. So I understood that, and I didn't press you. I didn't say too much. I said, anyway, we got way more than we thought we would get.
But while you were gone, John happened to be in Florida, and we went golfing, and I had a fucking fantastic round. I shot a 41 on the front, which for me is pretty good. I could have easily broke 40. Fell apart in the back, had a few drinks. So I was also mentally exhausted and physically exhausted when we got back.
I mean, I don't even know what that means. 41.
That's pretty good.
Whatever.
I think like only 20% of golfers can
get
break
8 stats. Okay.
So
anyway, tune into ESPN next week. Brady can tell you more about his golf. It's kind of a relief too that we have this. We get to film him and speak with him.
Yeah,
because the
whole trip was worth it now.
Yeah, the whole trip, everything we were getting
so quick. We got so much stuff. So
we were getting a lot, And we left New York knowing
with nothing,
basically
without a
nothing.
plan. And then 8 days later, we've talked to my mom, we've talked to her friends, we found Carlos, we think.
Found your father, Carlos, yeah. And then, there's a lot there in 8 or 9, 10 days. And then we have some more time in the back end of Florida, and we decide, I can't remember what we decided to do. We went to the Everglades.
Oh yeah, we had more time, so we were like, cool, let's, never been there. We drive. We want to go on an airboat, but we don't want to go on one that's we're just going to divert.
We just want the most...
Carlos driven it, because this is a fun story. So we were we want the sketchiest airboat we could find that's not seating 20 people. Well, we fucking found it. We found this it was called the Voodoo Grill, and it was basically a pop-up tent on the side of the road deep in the Everglades.
The last stop.
Yeah, and they had a homemade watercraft. What's it called?
Hovercraft?
Hovercrafting, whatever. It goes this way.
But it was the most DIY one I've ever seen.
So she's like, yeah, let me call him. He'll be over and he'll give you a ride. So we wait. This guy shows up. It's this dude. They're part of the Miccosukee tribe.
Yeah.
And
which is the tribe that
grew up
around the Everglades.
In the fucking Everglades.
Yeah.
They wrestled pythons and
his stories were wild.
Yeah. The man's incredible. He built this.
He made us seem like the smallest, weakest little man.
Yeah. And he took us out on the Everglades, just us two and him. And he showed us, it was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen and the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then I told him what I was doing out there as I'm trying to find my dad. And he told me a story about how he had been trying to find the love of his life.
Yeah. For the same period of time too, 30-something years.
About just life. And it was almost like he was not even real, a part of my imagination.
Yeah.
And then he told us about I think they do it every year. They get a new name every year, and they do this ritual where they poke themselves with needles attached to a tree and chant till they pass out and take probably hallucinogenics.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was.
I mean, this is 4 or 5 hours of the day we spent with this guy. It's crazy, and we come back what just happened?
It's just a crazy.
There's also these fucking crocodiles at our feet and all sorts of shit. It was, you're in a very wild part of nature. He said he got all the parts from this hovercraft or airboat, whatever you call it in America, from Home Depot, and he built it himself. Yeah. And he was the coolest looking American Indian guy, long, thick hair,
thick Nikes that said money on them.
Yeah, and he had all cool old faded tats, and he was like a G. He was cool as fuck.
And then before we left too, though, we had an address to Carlos's house.
I forgot about this.
We were well, let's just drive there and see where he lives.
Well, hang on. So when I interviewed him, he'd told me about the local bar across the road from his house that he drinks at, and he basically walked me through his whole neighborhood. So I kind of knew I already knew where he lived through you, and then
I had an address. Yeah, and I didn't know if that was the right address. But when he said the bar, oh shit, that is the right address, because
he gave me all the details.
Yeah,
he was showing me videos from his balcony. So I was
on the beach. How does he afford that as a crystal dealer at a farmer's market? A condo on literally on the beach? I don't know
either. But you and I decide on one of our off days to drive, because we know he's at work, and we know
he's at work.
We hope he's at work, and we kind of know his schedule. So we decide to drive to his known address on the beach, and just to get a cutaway shot of it. And we're in our stupid PI cargo van that is hauling us up the freeway, and we get there. we it's trial and error for a bit, and then we find the building. And Brayden pulls up, and he drives this cargo van into the front of the building, and there's a big overpass in front of the entrance to the big condo building. And because we're in a cargo van, we don't realize how tall it is, and he gets stuck under the fucking overpass. So now we're trying to be is
praying that no one comes out.
Yeah, we're oh my God, I've got a camera in my arms. You're so paranoid of being seen by your father. And I've interviewed him a few days earlier. So I'm he's going to walk out and be aren't you the guy that just filmed me? So, and now we're stuck in the overpass out the front of his building. Like 2 idiots, like Dumb and Dumber.
But we reversed out, got out of there. And
I mean, we somehow got out of there. And yeah, we just left. We were so embarrassed. And then we just went straight to the bar. We're like, okay, we're not going to do any more like PI stunts.
So we feel pretty good. We feel like, yeah, we got a lot of shit. I feel crazy. I think I called Travis, and I'm sort of telling Travis.
Hang on, you say who Travis is? Travis is your
Travis is
cousin.
my cousin, who's basically like my brother, and he actually had met Carlos one time in Washington State at a restaurant.
And he's what? How much older than
10
you?
years older than me.
Okay, so
But
he
he
met
sort
when he
of
was
was
like
like
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he just remembers him having like gold chains and like a lot of jewelry and like dressed really like an 80s like drug dealer, basically.
Right. Well, now he's just still covered in chains and crystals, and he was in all white, and he has long dark hair.
So I called Travis. I tell him we're going to talk to him on our next trip. But
Yeah, so the plan is, I guess we had a bit of a break, so we got so much, and then we went back to New York. We had to go through all like 2 weeks of footage from New York. We were filming, Seattle we were filming, Florida we were filming, and then we kind of just sat down, paused for a minute, reflected, and
then also like I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you're going through it too, because it's like, it's crazy. You go through not knowing anything to knowing a lot.
And then to being like, cool, maybe that's enough. Maybe I don't need to know anymore.
What I wanted to say before we wrap this up, why we're doing the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Finding Carlos, is because we're trying to refresh our memories ourselves as we go along this journey and make this film. And it's just kind of helping you guys at home understand that this is a very long process and it's going all around America. And, for those of you that end up watching the film, it'll only be a 2-hour max film. So, you'll miss a lot of it. But so in the first segment, I guess we've gone from New York to Seattle down to Florida. And now we go back to New York, we kind of pause, have a moment to ourselves, and then we decide to go back to Florida.
With no plan.
Well, hang on. We did have a plan.
There's a plan.
We have a crazy plan, and
that'll be episode 3.
Yeah, whether it works out or not.
We did a casting call.
The reason we do this is because when we go back to New York after that first trip, you're pretty rattled. Like it was a lot for you to handle, and we go back to upstate New York, and I let you watch the footage of me filming your father for the first time, which is a very traumatic thing for you, and it's a lot. And I think within the opening 5 to 10 minutes, he basically denies having a son. So it kind of throws you big time. Anyway, you get through all the footage and you're kind of like, whoa, like this is a lot. And we decide a way we're dealing with the kind of trauma that's coming out is let's make this kind of more fun.
Well, so I had an idea of, well, do I want to meet my dad? And if I did, how would it go when I approached him? And how would I approach him? And where would I approach him? Okay, so maybe we should hire actors to play Carlos and rent a little theater and play out different scenarios of how,
originally we had an idea of like casting fake dads nearly to like practice scripts on. And then it developed into like, okay, what if it was like how I met him for the first time?
So basically, we'll get into it in episode 3, but we put out a casting call on Craigslist. We rented a really small theater. Me and Mikey wrote some really bad scripts of
terrible.
Potentially me meeting my dad and how it would go. And we acted it out.
Yeah. So we go back.
And we'll talk about it in episode 3.
Yeah. So episode 3, back down to Florida, and things unravel even more. Until next time.